All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to have you all join us today. Welcome to this exciting panel discussion on unlocking HR competencies to drive the automobile industry forward. So, as the automobile sector undergoes a lot of transformation from electrification to automation to sustainability and digital first experiences, the role of HR has never been more pivotal, right? So, today, HR is not just a support function, it's a strategic engine powering innovation, agility, and cultural change across the value chain. So, today's session, we bring together two seasoned HR leaders who've been the forefront of shaping high impact people strategies in the automotive ecosystem, from setting up greenfield factories, building future ready talent pipelines, managing industrial relations, and driving the workforce transformation in diverse and dynamic environments. They've done it all. So today we'll explore how HR competencies must evolve, and not just to keep in pace with the industry, but to actively lead its progress. So buckle up as we kind of deep dive into the future of HR in the automobile industry. I think someone was off mute. Okay. So, giving you a little bit of an introduction about our speakers for today, we have with us Nidhi Prasad. She's a seasoned HR leader with extensive experience in building high-performing, customer-centric organizations. She currently serves as the director of HR and labor compliance at Ather Energy, where she has been instrumental over the past 3 years in shaping people strategy and driving operational excellence. Prior to joining Ather, Nidhi held key HR leadership roles at GE Healthcare, Tata Power Solar, Tata BP Solar, and Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. Her expertise lies in industrial relations and HR business partnership. Her focus has been at the intersection of business, culture, and people management. At Ather, Nidhi played a very pivotal role in setting up the company's greenfield manufacturing facility in Hosur, a challenge that combined her strategic vision with hands-on execution to build a dynamic and inclusive workplace from the ground up. Known for her people-first approach, Nidhi sees herself as a torchbearer for her team, committed to unlocking potential, enabling growth, and making a lasting impact on those that she works with. Outside of her work, she enjoys reading, gardening, volunteering, pursuits that kind of reflect her belief in continuous growth and giving back to the community. It's wonderful to have you with us, Nidhi. Thank you for joining us today. We have with
Thanks,
us,
Sharon.
thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Thank you. We have with us Mr. Musrat Hussain. Musrat is a seasoned HR professional with rich and diverse experience spanning HR strategy, transformation, change management, industrial relations, leadership development, mergers and acquisition, greenfield and brownfield projects. He's pretty much done it all. Currently, he serves as the head of human resource at Suzuki's R&D Center in India. He brings a rare blend of expertise across Indian, American, and European, and now Japanese multinationals. In his previous roles at Maruti Suzuki India, he had spearheaded strategic initiatives in leadership development, HR transformation, succession planning, and at his earliest stints at KHT Humboldt, HEG Limited in Asia. He has worked at driving plant HR operations, capability development, and organizational transformation at scale. He has been actively involved in shaping the HR landscape in India. He has served as the honorary vice president of NHRDN Delhi NCR chapter. He's been a long-standing member of the CII regional committees on HR and IR and the Committee on Skill Development and Livelihood. He's a recognized industry voice, and he's been honored with the Father Michael Van Den Bogart Distinguished Alumni Award by XISS. He's been named the 20 most impactful HR leaders at the CHRO Vision and Innovation Summit of 2022, and he's been featured as one of the top HR professionals to follow on social media in 2021. He continues as the president of the alumni chapter of Delhi and NCR in XISS. He continues to mentor and contribute to the next generation of HR professionals. It's wonderful to have you with us, Mr. Musrat. Thank you so much for joining. And from from both of you. We're very excited to gather insights and your wisdom on how the HR practice is shaping up within the automotive industry. So, yeah, the most obvious thing, one thing that is common between the two of you is that you are both seasoned HR professionals in the automobile industry. So, for our audience today, could you please share a perspective on the 1 to 2 big differences between the HR practice in an automobile industry versus what you gauge will be the practice in other industries such as banking, IT, or startups, right? So, if over to you, if you both of you can answer on that, that'll be really great.
We'll start with Nidhi.
Sure.
Thank you. So thank you, Sharon, for a wonderful introduction and to NHRD for this opportunity. Actually, I'm a bit conflicted here, whether I relate myself more with a startup or more with an automobile industry, because Ather, as you know, is a 10-year old startup and we just went into the IPO and became a public limited company. Having said that, I relate myself more to a startup than to a automobile industry. Having said that, because like in an established automobile industry, the 4 M's are already established. You know how to get it, like be it the man, the material, the machine, and the money, the most important part. And in a startup, we are always struggling to understand how to manage the four and how to balance the four. In a traditional organization, there has been multiple cycles compared to a startup which is learning on the fly. Like they make mistakes, they learn, they innovate, while it is like you're changing the tires of a moving vehicle of sorts, is what I would say from a startup. From a skill perspective, I come from an EV space, and we do not have a ready-made talent pool to look into. While in a traditional OEM, you will have the talent which is already available, be it in the mechanical or in the electrical field, and you will have which field and what roles do you want. But in a startup or in a young startup or a young automobile company, in a two-wheeler, what I see is like we start building the talent grounds up. We try to hire people and train them on the skills we require, because when we started, we didn't have people from where we could poach people and get the ready-made talent. So that's a very big difference of having run through many cycles and deploying those learnings. For us, it's like building it from grounds up.
I totally get that. That should be pretty challenging.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so this is very, very simple. When you talk about banking, tech, or startup, new age industries, the biggest difference between this sector and automotive is that automotive is manufacturing, and from a people perspective, you have only white collar employees in banking, tech. You have techies, whereas the automobile industry will have blue collar, outsource, contract labor. So this is a labor intensive industry, along with being highly, robotic and automation, industry 4.0. So you can see the difference that they have both the sector. This is one of the biggest. Uh, the banking doesn't have to worry about blue collar and unionized, though banks are unionized, but the kind of union that you see in automotive industry is totally different. This is one of the biggest difference. The second difference with these industries is that automotive is going through a huge disruption globally,
Mm.
and there is a lot of technological changes happening. So what is happening is that the skills which people have are becoming redundant very fast. So you have to do continuous skilling, reskilling, unlearning, learning. This is a continuous process because today, if you look at the automotive industry globally, and you have already outlined in the beginning, we are moving in various direction. You never know. We are now talking about connected. We are talking about driverless. We are talking about green and efficient cars. We are talking about hydrogen. And I don't know, you may have a drone car or something in future. So technology is changing so fast. Where is the talent to manage those technology? So you need people. And if you have the right set of people, you need to skill them, upskill them, retrain them. That is one of the biggest challenge because in other industries, there is a set pattern, set business. The business model doesn't change. The problem in automotive is itself is that the business model itself is changing. Buying behaviors are changing. The customer preferences are changing. So there is a huge change happening right from technology to sales to service to people. So from this perspective, we have to do major change. In fact, it's not a minor; it's a leap through. In fact, everywhere you see these kind of changes happening. I can go on and on because hundreds of examples I have, but yes, this is what comes to mind.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Musrid. So I think, like, even from the level of knowledge that is there at every layer of, the employees and the very nature of education background that they come with, the level at which they work in, the kind of skill that has to be deployed, I think that's a lot of ambiguity and a lot of differences that you work with. Wonderful. So, in terms of shifts in the industry, right? What are some big shifts that are impacting your respective industries that you're working in? I know we spoke about a little bit about how skills are becoming redundant and all of that. But what are some big shifts that you're seeing? And what are those some shifts which are kind of exciting you the most, right? There's a question to both of you.
Okay.
Over to me.
Oh, sure. Thank you. So, one thing I would say, Sharon, here is for our industry, it has brought back, because we are traditional two-wheeler, a young startup in a EV space, it has brought back glamour into the hardware industry.
Mm.
Okay. So, and having been in the center stage of this, we have earned, I feel, a bit of a bragging rights about this revolution. uh, so what we have seen, like you had helmets, smart helmets were already available. So what is changing in the industry is now we are looking at the entire ecosystem of a seamless experience, like be it the charging infrastructure for a traditional ICE vehicle, which is internal combustion engine. You already have things established. Where do you get the petrol? How should the lines be laid across? But in a EV, there is a lot of challenges. There's a lot of things yet to be explored. So that is something very exciting. And you look for more like a ecosystem around the experiences. So each of the product you build, you along with it build the experience and the ecosystem around it. It's like as soon as you wear a smart helmet, it gets integrated with your phone, and then you are able to see the merger. So basically, earlier a hardware and a software integration was not so much possible, or people were not able to understand the importance of a software in a scooter. So when we compete for talent, we are competing with the talent which is
Mm.
very fond of going into a Google, and they are thinking, what do I do in a traditional automobile as a sector? So that is something which is very different now. The second change is like earlier we are looking for very specific skill set. Now the importance of the soft skill is also increasing. You look for people who are able to do problem solving, are
Mm.
more collaborative in nature, and the speed of delivery becomes very key. Like earlier, while the latest product, we have reduced the development time by almost 50%. This and all is is possible when you have more appreciation of each other's world, the realities. You try to work together as a cross functional team, while earlier also the organizations were working in a cross functional team. But now that becomes the key differentiator where people are able to align to a common goal. So that is a major shift which I'm seeing in the industry, in my industry at this point of time.
That's very insightful, Nidhi. Um,
Yeah. So part of the answer I gave in my earlier reply. So automotive largely, primarily, there is a big technological shift, digital disruption, as I said earlier. And because of that, what is happening is that, there is a concept in mobility which is called ACES, ACES. It's very common in any automobile. So it's the mobility trend we are talking about. A stands for autonomous. So we are talking about safer and fatigue-free cars, or we are talking about connected, which is IoT, accessible, very convenient. And then there is electric, where we talk about zero tailpipe emission. And then we have seen the rise of shared mobility, better asset utilization, congestion reduction, many things which is happening. So today, one of the biggest shift which is happening in automobile industry, we sum it up as ACES, ACES. And this is what is actually defining how we are moving in the automobile, in mobility. And this is, if I just take one, for example, zero tailpipe emission. So we are talking about electric. It's not only electric. We are talking about hybrid. We are talking about uh, alternative fuel. We are talking about hydrogen. And there are newer research which is happening. People are talking about solar cars, and I don't know. I mean, so many research happening. So this is one of the shift, and we don't know. The product and technology is changing so fast, and because of that, the business model itself is changing. Today we are talking about contract manufacturing, or we are talking about concepts like co-branding, or uh, co-badging we are talking about. So as you can see, like Maruti and Toyota are having product sold in their name. For example, couple of our product is being sold as Toyota's product. Some of the Toyota product we are selling. And then there is huge collaboration because of this ACES trend, where couple of products are jointly being produced. So you will see these kind of partnership happening as we move forward, because of the disruption which is happening in the industry. Yeah.
Wonderful. That's a lot of learning that I've had today, especially as someone who comes from the IT industry. I had no idea about the ACEs. It's something that I've learned today, and sounds very interesting, a very interesting landscape that's unfolding before us. So, just out of curiosity, Mr. Musrat, I have a question for you. You've worked in across Indian, American, European, and now Japanese MNC, right?
Yeah.
How has your this is more of a softer question. How has your leadership style evolved, and what are some differences in the culture that you have seen
Yeah,
in
yeah,
these?
that's very pertinent. I have traveled across various nationalities and geographies, and worked across different cultures. And what is called is leadership agility. I would say that as we go into an industry, we have to be agile and adaptive of the way they work. So Americans or European will work in a very different way. Similarly, if you look at Germans, they work very differently. If you look at Korean or Chinese, they have a very different set of culture. And Japanese, of course, are very different. So to talk about leadership, it's all about agility and how we adopt as quickly as possible into their culture. And the best part is that people who are Japanese and all, they have actually assimilated into the culture, where, say, for Maruti Suzuki, they are in India for more than 4 decades, and they are adopting more to the Indian style of working also. Of course, idea is that the leadership, of course, the thinking, the perception, the way you work differs, and we have to adopt as quickly as possible into this kind of work. So this is there. Every organization or every such kind of thing have a different culture altogether. So it's all about culture, all about the DNA, all about the competencies that you are going to create to adapt into that kind of culture. And this is what the USP of each culture is, that how to effectively exploit the DNA of that organization and build that DNA into the employees. That's very interesting actually. This is something which is quite interesting, in the sense that that is what drives the organization. So that's been very interesting. So there are certain key things which becomes the drivers of the organization, and this comes from the culture in which you are working, and then you are, so that's why we say, it's a very good combination. The Japanese technology and way of working, their practices, and the Indian way of working, the kind of Kaizen that we do, the kind of effort we put in, together they create success stories. And that is what the whole idea is, how together you can create a success story. But there are failure stories also. There are companies which have been automotive, I'll not go beyond, companies like General Motors and Ford, they have to close their shop. It's not about product. They have good product. The only problem is how you assimilate into the culture, how you understand Indian mindset, how you understand consumer behavior, how you handle your people. So best of the companies can fail if the leadership alignment is not there. Not that General Motor or Ford doesn't have product. They have global products. They are big name, big companies. But why you failed in this region is to be introspective. So there are a lot of issues, and one of them is leadership. That's very important.
Absolutely. That's a very interesting perspective that you had shared, Musrit, in terms of one, HR being at the intersection of the ethnic cultures that come together, and also being that bridge between leadership, trying to understand their vision and their values and translating it as culture for the larger employee segment. That's a pretty challenging thing to do. And I think you've done it time and again, and that's so wonderful to know. So to you, Nidhi, I have a question. So when I was reading through your LinkedIn experiences, there was this interesting part of you setting up the Greenfield facility at Ather ground up. And you also mentioned about one very interesting thing, which was how you had to probably get in people without the exact skill set, but you probably had to judge in terms of their capability and then build in that skill set after recruiting them, right? That was very interesting. So, what were some of the most challenging and rewarding parts of setting up this greenfield facility at Ather?
One of the most challenging and the interesting part was when we started more like a scaling perspective. EV itself was very new in the ecosystem where we were operating. So we hired some people who knew a bit of hardware, a bit of software, and then we looked for people who had the ability to learn. The ability and the mindset to learn was the thing which we based on. We checked the basic dexterity for them, and then we had our own training centers. We had our own testing labs, so that whatever was there, it was all homegrown. So we are taking pride in the fact that we have the largest R&D center, across India. So that this helps us to build things grounds up, check it grounds up. So even when we were moving the facility, we hired people from, most of the people were first generation women employees. First generation, they were coming into, they were kids of farmers and all, and the first time they are coming, they passed out from ITI college. It was a COVID time, and at that point of time, government had passed regulations that everyone gets pass, because there were no practical time to give them those teachings of the lab experience. Coming to the quality is a different portion, but even that which was available was not available to them, because there were mandates, that you cannot fail anybody, pass everybody. So when you get that sort of people from a talent pool itself, it's not like we were the alone people struggling. So then we had to invest in heavily in the training. We started from basics of the behavioral part, the technical part, what are the functional trainings required. And then we had tremendous amount of patience with us, because we knew that people will not be able to produce the first time right. But if they had the genuine attitude of learning, they had, it was more about change, for them also. First time coming into, and then you ask them to wear uniform, and then, wear safety gears. That itself is like a bit of a challenge, they find it, and it is for their own safety. They understand in the classroom, but when you go to the shop floor to implement it becomes a challenge. So we had, for each of our stations which we needed, we had the dojo setups made in house, and then we trained people.
Okay. Very interesting. I mean, you had mentioned in the AI age where, skills become redundant the next day. I think even at a wider level, we need to be recruiting at looking at learning dexterity, right? That was
Yeah.
a very interesting thing that you brought up. And also, I think there's a lot of pride in having these people who are homegrown. Their organization citizenship behavior, which we talk about, will be very high. And that's wonderful. So, thank you for that.
Okay.
So, a question to both of you in keeping with these shifts, right? So, what are some things what are some HR practices that need to be changed, or how would HR evolve uh, in keeping with the wider uh, changes and shifts in the automotive industry? Musrit, would you?
You, Nidhi, first, you go for that, or if you want, I can
I
go.
can go, no problem. So basically, like Sharon, which I earlier mentioned, the traditional definitions of power, of authority, of influence, everything changes in a new world industry. You have a multi generational workforce working together. So my boss is a 50 plus and my CEO is 30 plus. So how do you report into that sort of a mindset? Because the startup was, they thought about the idea. So that itself is a very change, for people. Like if you go in a traditional organization, people respect you because of your age, people respect you because of the role you carry, but the role authority basically. But as in when you move into a new age organization, it is more about how do you balance your influencing skills with your personal leadership. So that is the clue for being successful, so that all our processes and framework has to be looked into from that view and that lens, and we have to retest those things. The way you're building of like how we are training people from grounds up, even the culture has to be carefully curated. It just does not happen on its own. So you have to call out the behaviors. Sometimes it is very easy to keep quiet, and but to have that courage to speak out the truth, even though it's uncomfortable. So how do you build that sort of a culture? That would be the differentiator for all the HR processes and people. So everything has to be looked from a new lens of whether it is relevant or not. It has to be contextualized. The traditional bell curve was good at that particular time at that particular organization. What is it that you want for is relevant for your organization, your talent? What is your talent philosophy is something we'll have to keep relooking and reworking.
Absolutely. Very interesting perspective in the sense that we don't have to have HR processes just to put a checkbox,
Yeah.
right? It has to evolve with the times, with the kind of structures, organization structures that we have, with the business needs as well. So, yeah, I think now more than ever, having a ear to the ground is so important for us HR professionals.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nidhi. Over to you, Musrat.
Yeah, so I echo the same what Nidhi is saying, but let me add, that's right. In an organization like ours, we have fourth generation of people working. So you can't have one size fit all strategy. So one of the biggest changes that we were trying to do everything same for everyone, because when the company started, you had common canteen, so everybody will eat same food, same place, same uniform from MD to a shop floor worker. So these were very good Japanese practices. But over years, what has happened is that this doesn't work, and that is the reason that flexibility and kind of change, and you have to listen to the voice of people, and that's how in fact when in Maruti we were 6 day week working company for years, decades. So it took us a lot of time to convert from a 6 day to 5 day. A very big change, I would say, because that was the need of our people. Want work-life balance. People want something to do for themselves, and you have to ensure that if you have to keep your people happy, engaged, and in fact, we are one of those companies where we had below 2% of attrition for long, long time. Still, it is one of the lowest in comparable industries. We are less than 4%, which is very good. And in fact, people have joined Maruti and worked for lifetime, and coming from top B school, top engineering colleges. Not that we pay very well compared to industry, we are well paid, but you have to create that culture. You have to understand what each generation wants. You can't have, as I said, one size fit all strategy. One of the biggest challenge that we faced from 2010 onward, when we had young generation and we found attrition going up, one of the reason was work-life balance. And this is what we did. Then, this flexibility of, timing, because let me tell you one perspective in automobile industry, we are very conscious of the time. Every second counts. So I don't know how many of you know here, but we roll out a car every 12 seconds, and each car has more than 20,000 components. So on an average, almost 10,000 plus cars every day. So that is the level of efficiency. So every second counts. But that doesn't mean that you don't have flexibility. You have a lot of automation, robotics, but then you can't have no human machine collaboration is there, but people you have to take care of. So this flexibility, flexible timing, work from home, many kind of things were introduced where it could be introduced so that flexibility is there. But then one big challenge was there. Two things that I observed. One was that employees would say that my learning curve is not very sharp. So they are very fast learner and they want variability in work. So basically what they have done yesterday, they don't want to do today, forget about tomorrow. So how do you bring so much of variability? So these are some of the fundamental challenges, but then you have to segregate into generic role or a generalist or a specialist. A specialist will have to go into that role and become an expert in that area. There are generalist roles. So all those categorization has happened. People have various career paths, and people also look at growth, career path, learning. So all those have to be created if you actually want to retain people. So thankfully we had opportunities and we created academies. We have a lot of overseas training and we do a lot of job rotation and we do a lot of posting in our group companies with additional role, and we have stretch role where people at junior level are given senior level role and they are developed. So all these keeps people happy and stressed, and they love those kind of challenging work assignments. So these are all combination of things which is helping organization not only retain but engage these people and be the torchbearer of the organization for future. But there is a big change which has happened, when we are talking about future of work and all, and what I have seen, even for HR. Earlier, our job was to how to attract talent, how to develop talent, how to retain talent. This is what we have been taught and we have been doing for decades. But today, this is not the concept. Today, the problem is where to get the right kind of talent, where to source from, how to access talent from where. That itself has become challenging. Of course, almost 90% of talent we get from the entry route itself, which is MBA or engineer from the campus, which is our strategy. But of course, many organizations have to have a balanced mix of lateral and pressure. But how to access, how to curate talent, curate an individual requirement, because even training has gone for a big change. Today, we were putting people into a classroom kind of a cohort and training what we wanted to train them. Today, nobody is interested in that. Today, they want to have their own individual learning. They want it. We have seen that. We have given LXPs. We have given LXPs to people, and what we expect them to learn, they learn something else. That's the change which is happening, and we have to, accept that. So people have to basically learn what they want to learn, and this an organization has to give them opportunities. There are so many cross cultural kind of a shift which is happening, where people from engineering are coming into HR, people from HR are going into sustainability, people from production becoming sales marketing head. So those kind of things are happening, and those are opportunities we are creating inside for people where they have what kind of talent. Please tap those talent and give them opportunities. And then people have hunger for higher education in the sense that, okay, I'm an engineer, I want to do MBA, so I'll resign and go and do MBA. Why not create MBA for them? uh, in the system itself. So we have partnered with MDI, IMT, and top B schools for a part-time education, funding more than 50% of the fees. So what is happening is that this is, in their hunger for learner, they are doing that. So these are some of the changes. In fact, many diploma holders wanted to do engineering. So we got BITS Pilani inside Maruti campus to do 4-year engineering course, fees funded by Maruti. This has helped not only employee sharpen their learning curve, but also remain, retain, and contribute to the organization. For shop floor worker who are ITIs, they want to do diploma. So we partnered with Polytechnic and we are having our own curated diploma and fees funded by companies. So at across level and band, we are putting up not only money and resource, but giving them this opportunity. So these are the need of time. If we don't do, we'll perish. If we have to be leader in the automotive industry, I want to be on the pole position, then one has to have a differentiating HR practices to ensure that we have, kind of an edge with our competition. And in fact, this is the differentiating factor between us and competition. And we have been able to create talent. And I'm happy to say on this platform also that most of the automotive companies in India are actually driven by ex-Marutian. So we are like Unilever to the auto industry. And I can vouch for that, and others will also vouch, because we have created those kind of talent pipeline who are not only helping us, but also helping the entire automotive industry grow. And this any automotive company can say, nobody can negate me on that. I say it on platforms with confidence. So these are few things which comes to my mind. We can go on and on. Yes.
Wonderful. So I think very insightful in the sense that from managing a multi-generational workforce with each generation having different priorities to shaping a talent strategy which would be in line with a person's personal priorities, learning priorities, and aspirations. I think that's the mix that you just spoke about, and that's so important as well. It was very interesting to see how talent has to be curated, and learning for this talent has to be also very personalized. That's something that we're seeing a lot today as well. So thank you for your insights, Nusrat. So one question to Nidhi. There was one thing which I saw on your LinkedIn page which really interested me, which said, you believe that you are a torchbearer. It is important to be a torchbearer to your team, right? So what does it mean to be a torchbearer in practice for your team?
I would say, leadership is not about you being successful alone. It is also about how many leaders you're creating within your team. How what are the opportunities you're curating them? What are the resources are definitely critical because you've hired them for the OKRs which you have taken up for yourself. But it is also important to give them timely feedback. Try to curate their leadership path. They will always be yes to you. You are in a position of authority, they will listen to you. But how are you bringing their personal development in the forefront is something as a leader we have to curate. It is not about just talking good, but giving them hard feedback at the times when they are not expecting, and creating that learning journey for them is, I think, one of the greater contribution as a leader we should develop. And creating mini leadership around would something which will enable the organization to achieve success in the long run. Hiring people who are not like you is also something, where they keep challenging your thought process, try to bring a different point of view, and how do you converge are things which you do to enable your team to move forward.
Wonderful. Some great thoughts, Nidhi. So, listening to the unarticulated needs of the associate is something that was so good. And I think that's just so front and center when it comes to a leader, and hiring people who really don't think like you is something that is really something so revolutionary, even in today's world. So, thank you for that. Musrit, one question to you. So our audience typically is a mix of individuals aspiring to be HR professionals, or they're already in the HR profession, starting out, or in the middle level. We have quite a bit of a mix, and some of them would be wanting to be in the automobile sector as well. So would you be able to share with us your view on what are some very important skills and mindsets that would be needed as a HR person in the automobile sector in India? What are some very key skills and mindsets that they should have?
There are a couple of key skills or competencies, I would say, which is desired for not only automotive, but the kind of disruption we are seeing today. One of the competencies is cognitive flexibility. Let me explain this. This is how to, adapt effectively. I am talking about that agility to adapt effectively, or how to let go of the past belief. So what got us here will not take us there. So with this belief, this competency is cognitive flexibility or agility, as I would call it, to adapt effectively to the newer situation, because situation will keep on changing. I told you, explained you, disruption is happening. So one has to be, adapting to that change as quickly as possible and let go of the past belief also. So a lot of one learning. Second is pragmatic orientation. Now let me explain this. This is required in most of the organizations, including startups, how to act fast and iterate faster. This is what is required, shorter cycle time. You have to be resourceful, and speed is what defines for everything that you are doing. So pragmatic orientation is the competency which is defining this acting fast and iterating faster. Third, which is also very important and which many people lack, is having a frugal mindset. Employees or people should have a very frugal mindset, how to do more with less. Everybody expects, I want more team member, more fund, more bigger budget, then only I can perform. Sorry, how can you actually deliver in constraint? How to do more with less? This is what is required in today's skills or mindset. These people will be successful. This is what organization wants. And then, of course, there is a digital disruption happening. So digital dexterity, or how tech savvy you are, is required by everyone. Forget about automobile. We have our mobile in our hand. How much we are exploiting? Maybe 5%, 10%. Youngsters would be exploiting maybe 20, 25, 30%, much more than us. What is desired today is that how we, become tech savvy, and we have to develop a non-linear thinking. Problem is that we have been groomed and developed to think in a linear way. We have to develop that ability and capability to have a non-linear thinking. And that is what digital dexterity is all about. Because today disruption is happening, we have to think very differently, act very differently. And the last, what I think is very important, not only in automotive, but other industry, today we need a lot of resilience and empathy, which is actually was missing. Somewhat it came during pandemic, but again eroding, which is people need to develop perseverance. People need to develop endurance. These are some of the mindset and competencies people need to develop if they have to survive in a disruptive kind of an environment going forward. Organization, there are merger acquisition happening. There are organization which may close overnight. There are technology will change overnight. You have seen over last 10, 15 years, many organizations have just sunk. If you are not resilient, if you do not have perseverance, endurance, it will be very difficult to survive. So employees or people need to develop. So it's for all generations. This is what comes to my mind, and I keep telling in most of the forum. So this is from my side.
Sorry, that's a lot of thoughts, Musrat, and I think very relevant to today's disruptive world. So we have a couple of audience questions coming in. So I think the first question I'd like to share it with Musrat because you just spoke about something on the same lines. What are some practical steps that HR can take to align people's strategy with fast evolving market dynamics in the automobiles sector? This comes from Mohan Thapa.
So people strategies, as I said very well, is that how to attract talent. One of the important thing, how to curate and develop your talent and retain your talent, or have you know what I was telling you as curating employee experiences, because it is all about employee. Let me tell you, whatever automation robotics you may have, ultimately people behind all this is the people. They are the game changers basically. And if people are aligned, they can make or break the organization. Let me tell you, nothing different for automobile industry. So right from manufacturing to sales to service to quality to supply chain, everywhere you need talent, and you have to develop talent, and you have to have that kind of mindset and speed, agility, and all these, as I was talking about, pragmatic orientation and cognitive flexibility. All these are some of the competencies which are required, and this is what we develop in our people. We have a very strong competency framework where a lot of assessments are done, a lot of development. In fact, entire HR process is competency centered, right from hiring to talent development to succession planning to job rotation. Everywhere you have this competency framework playing a very big role, and they are actually the DNA of the organization. You have to develop and evolve people. Like innovation is one of the competencies where if people are not innovative, then you cannot be on the pole position. So earlier we were only three companies in India. So we were competing with two, and today 26 other companies are chasing us. So for us to be ahead of the game, we have to have innovative HR practices, not only HR, all kind of practices, if we want to be on the pole position, because competition is hotting up, and there are as I said, our own talent driving those organizations, so they know the tricks of the trade. So we have to be ahead of the curve if we want to be. Then we have to have innovative practices, innovative strategies. We need to have a lot of things to ensure that in the business, in the game, we are ahead of the curve. So that is what is driving. Everything has to align to that. You can't, as I said, you have to let go of the past. What got us here will not take us there. We have been leader for last 40 years, but for the next 10 years or 20 years, the game is totally different. So we have to be ready for that. So all our strategies is actually aligned to that. If we have to have that kind of market and that kind of customer base, export, what kind of practices we need to develop. So that's very, very simple. Or otherwise we are out of the business. As simple as that.
Right. Thank you so much, Musrat. So the question to Nidhi here is, it comes from Mr. Venkatesh in AB. So he says, can you throw some light on what kind of skill sets we need to train in terms of future managers? So people who manage mobility business or the automotive business, what are some skill sets that they will have to develop as managers to kind of be ahead of the curve, like Mr. Musrat said?
One of the basics would be to understand the first principles thinking and be okay with the conflict or a tension being surfaced in the team, because avoiding will not solve. It is working together, able to understand and see that is one of the critical skills which would be required for the manager of the future. There is also the need for people to have more agility and be okay with the difference which is existing. and take it as the new normal and move forward, rather than trying to, the traditional way of working, the traditional way of managing people is definitely going to change. How do you balance the empathy with the work deliverables is the key for any manager to be successful. So those would be the skills, I would say.
Wonderful. Thank you. We have one very interesting question which I'd like to pose to Mr. Musrat. As someone who has kind of done industrial relations and employee relations, which is actually one big set of competencies that come along with being a person in the automobile industry or the manufacturing industry, right? So we have a person who asks, what are the skill sets that you need to have in industrial relations? Um, as an industrial relations officer, which would really help, right? So, in terms of industrial relations and employee relations, what are some skill sets that a person who's starting out in their HR career, this comes from an intern, I believe, that they would need?
Yeah, let me answer this. See, one of the biggest challenge in industrial relation is trust deficit. The people in the union will never trust you, and you never trust a union. So there is always a gap. And you know, my experience in the some of the companies that I worked earlier, and I can say that I worked in a company called Aisha, and in Aisha, what happened is that in their Alwar plant, the union they themselves disbanded, saying that there is no need of having a union because company is giving us more than what is actually desired. And that was an example that where union said that we want normal increment as you give to your employees. We are happy with that, and we will be happy to work as a works committee. So that was a kind of trust management had on worker and worker had on management. So that doesn't happen overnight. That is because you respect them, you trust them, you are there in their hour of need, you are helping them develop, grow, which is very challenging. Today, it's all business, it's all political actually. Political unions are there, and there are external kind of challenges, but still having a kind of a trust building. This is the only formula. If you are able to create trust, that is something which is a game changer uh, in the field of industrial relation. Problem is that everybody plays game. The union will play game, the management will play game, and that is where it becomes very tricky. So it has become politicized these days. But there are very, very good IR people who are able to handle this with tact, with their managerial skills, with their ability. But behind all those is the trust. Those people trust them. So for a newcomer or anyone, my suggestion would be please be transparent, please be ethical, please do not create mistrust. So if you are able to create trust, IR will be said. IR is not a science, IR is an art. And I tell that, in fact, I joke with my employees that there are two kind of things. One is industrial relation, one is domestic relation. So as you handle delicately your domestic relation, if you apply the same principle in organization, I think no dispute will ever happen.
Wonderful. I think you've given us not just professional advice, but life advice as well. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Mosrat. So there's one question to Ms. Nidhi. Um, so, sorry, I lost track of the question. Okay. Are there any limitations for a HR professional in just any industry? Is there a limit to what we can do?
I don't think there is a limit to what we can do. It is more about the skill and the competencies which are required for the role. If we are ready to build those skills, even if we are not having, we would be able to do that. There are organizations where if you have an aspiration to be the CEO, you have to, but definitely you can't be a CEO in a very tech organization if you do not have the tech skills. So definitely you should have that sort of a skill and the competencies. And there are enough and more roles. I do not understand the question fully, but I think that is the meaning. Like there are a lot of ample opportunities to diversify within the HR function itself.
Got it. Okay, so with that, we'll move into a quick rapid fire round. So basically, both of you have to answer in just a sentence, if possible, for these questions. The first question is to Mr. Musrat. One word your team would use to describe you.
Okay. So my team would say that I am basically sort of a mentor.
Wonderful. One, the best to Miss Nidhi, the best advice you've ever received.
You can experiment and you will anyway know the results to move forward.
Wonderful. Mr. Musrat, a leadership trait that you value the most.
It's on honesty and integrity, let me tell you. If that is not there, this is something which has really helped, and you have to be very, very honest. And this sometimes very, very difficult and hard, but pays in the long run.
Wonderful. Ms. Nidhi, okay, this is a tough one. One HR jargon that you don't really like.
Which I don't like. Mm,
You can pass. I mean, we can move to another question if you don't really like this.
the jargon, I would say, is like being the strategic partner without understanding the realities. I
Wonderful.
think that's a
It's
jargon.
overrated. Yeah. Uh, Musrat, morning person or night owl?
No, no, I am a morning person. But yeah,
Wonderful. Nidhi, the most underrated HR skill.
uh, Empathy and the easy ability to. So if people are very easy to work with, people feel that they do not have spines. So that's also an underrated thing.
Okay. Um, Musrat, a book every HR leader should read.
there are many, many books that people should read, but depends on one of the book which I mean it's little bit of like there is a book called Balance Scorecard, and it talks about not only a company's strategy but links HR with that by Norton and Kaplan. One of the best books that I have ever read, and that actually helps HR think very differently.
Wonderful. Nidhi, if not HR, what would you be?
Hmm, that's a good question. Maybe an IS.
Sorry?
Maybe an IS.
Okay, an IS. Okay. So, Mr. Musrat, coffee, chai, or coconut water? What is your preference?
I'm a tea lover, so I'm a teetotaler. So, but so I love tea.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Nidhi, one value that you would never compromise on.
Integrity.
Super. We're on the same page here. Okay. So, Mr. Musrat, what's on your work desk right now that may say a lot about you? Anything interesting on your work desk that would say a lot about you?
See, something interesting on my table is that I am doing PhD at this age, and I am attached in academics. So I have a lot of things and research papers and papers that I keep reading. So this is something which is always there. My hunger to keep knowing, reading, understanding. This is the best I can do at this age of mine. So I love doing that.
Wonderful. The last question to Ms. Nidhi, one emoji that would describe your work day, a typical work day.
One emoji. A heart.
Wow. And a last question to both of you. We'll start with Ms. Nidhi. If you can give your 25-year-old self one tip, what would that be?
Never be afraid to experiment.
Wonderful. Mr. Musrat?
See, my one tip is that sincerity and hard work will always pay. This is I tell everyone: be sincere to whatever you are doing. That sincerity and hard work, this will always pay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And on that, we close today's session. Thank you so much. It was so insightful, so much of learning bites that we are taking back from this conversation. And I'm sure this would go a long way in our own learning journeys and our own aspirational journeys evolving as well. Thank you, Mr. Musrat and Ms. Nidhi. And thank you,
Thank you.
audience, for being such a wonderful, so participative and interactive as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
And
Sharon.
thank you, Nidhi. Thank you, Sharon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Just a minute. As we close out, just a couple of things to share. So this conversation has been brought to you by National Human Resource Development Network, or the NHRDN, which was established about 3 decades ago. It's an autonomous, not-for-profit organization managed as a catalyst for grooming tomorrow's leaders. So all of you who are interested in further knowledge of the HR courses, certifications, engagements, and interactions, please do follow our social media handles. We encourage you to also scan the QR code and explore the memberships that are there with us. That would be best for you. Thank you so much for joining and have a great weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.